Caner Universe, it's Caner Tip Tuesday, and today, why you don't have permission to violate these CaneFlow principles. And that was based on a master session that we had this week. But listen, before we jump into that, a warm welcome to all. And before you forget, if you love the content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell icon so that you don't miss any future content. And you have free resources. Please avail yourself now. The most important one by far is the no-cost Cane Clarity Call. Text the letter CCC to the number on the screen. In less than 24 hours, we will schedule a call for you. We schedule this so that we can dedicate the time to listen to you, find out what it is that interests you about the cane, and answer all your questions, give you the information. Most important of all, canes are fun, but the most important is how can you actually get trained wherever you are. And there's also a couple of Facebook groups that are now open to the general public. Just read the description below, request entry, they will let you right in. This past week, had in a master session, I made the comment, I said, you don't have, in CaneFlow, and I'll explain now, you don't have permission to violate tactical principles, and I'm going to give you 3 solid examples of that. But CaneFlow is that aspect of ACSD that are what we refer to as the quote-unquote dance. And people look at it and they say, wow, well, gosh, you wouldn't, handle an opponent like that, or, that's real dangerous, or I'd knock the cane right out. And it's that kind of linear thinking, and I'll put it gently, that is detrimental. You don't get it. And I've gone a long ways to explain these matters. If you just look up CaneFlow so you understand. But CaneFlow is not just picking up a cane and starting to handle it in a random way. There is definitely a structure and a method to it. There's an alphabet to it. There's a language that we've put together over the past 30 years. And it's a way of expressing yourself. It is not rehearsed, right? It's what I refer to as coming from the heart. I'm not going to get into that now. But I'm going to share with you that it's all based on tactical principles that even with all of those newcomers to CaneFlow, and many are coming from the arts, for instance, you have dancers, you have artists, you have those that are into music, that love jazz, because a lot of times it's done to that. They're coming to it as a form of brain training. It is a phenomenal. I don't believe we take a backseat to anything, including dancing and juggling, because it has components of that with this tool. But what really differentiates it is the fact that when you extract those movements have a self-protection application, and it respects those tactical principles. And I'll share 3 of them with you today. And you can take those and look at whoever is putting, showing you a CaneFlow, or you see somebody on CaneFlow Friday. If you're in the CaneFlow group, there's a free group that's open to the public. Look it up on Facebook, and you'll see these principles come into play. The first one is that regardless of the handling and what's going on in here, there is the respect of keeping everything tight in the guard zone. So the guard zone is an imaginary, think of it as a rectangle or square that covers these gates here, if you will. So it covers me up here, down here, and my center line. Now, this is not unique to CaneFlow. There's martial arts and combative systems that take that into consideration. Also front and back. So there's a concern for keeping everything in your 10 and 2, but you don't have movements that happen out here. Now look at this handling, right? You say, well, what's the deal? That's a figure 8. You won't find that there. You won't find shots that are coming here. The reason for that is because there's a violation. You're working outside those lines. The hallmark of keeping it tight in the guard zone is the disciplined caner that keeps their elbows close to their ribs and handles from here, regardless of what they're doing. Why? Because in ACSD, The cane teaches the empty hand. So when you no longer have this cane, every movement that you're doing has built in the discipline, whether you have that or you have another tool that it transfers into. Anything that you have in there respects that, keeping it tight in the guard zone. And along with that is usually keeping things in your 10 and 2 field of vision. Whenever you see this spinning going around, it implies that you're dealing with multiple assailants. So it has its own language that you learn how to read. So that would be the first one. The second one is maintaining what we refer to in ACSD as the HBC, or the half body concept. You're gonna find that caners, ACSD cane, always are giving you a half body. You're never square to an opponent for more than 2-3 seconds. So any handling that you see is not going to stay there. See, that's stationary, it's tight in the guard zone, but you're going to get this, and you're going to get a movement that turns from side to side, moves in using different type of footwork, step and drags and whatnot, but always at an angle. Why? Because I always say footwork gets you in and out of trouble. It gets you in trouble if you don't know what you're doing. There's certain things we just don't do. You're not going to see a lot of crossing up. You're never going to see us coming in square. You're going to see that movement from side to side, reverse grips coming down, covering that middle, removing and creating distance and maximizing the leverage of the tool, which is distance. So it's not just randomly going in there and doing, whatever comes up with coordinating cane moves. And then, so if you see a lot of this, for instance, it's not that, right? If you're handling something like that, it's going to be off on the side. If you're doing 2 canes, you'll see that the handling in that sense is going to be back here. The other one is going to be here, because this increases the probability that it's going to bump into something, it's going to hit something, it's going to fly out of your hand. So there's a method and a strategy behind that. Again, it's a language that you learn to read when you see others doing it. And lastly, number 3, the handling itself, what we refer to as handling, is your skill set made up in ACSD. We introduced a lot of this especially things like loops, they come over, and what that represents, attacks from the rear. This whole week we focus in the empty hand too, what that translates into, because all these movements are tied into the empty hand. But all the handling is designed to either teach you an actual practical application, or it's working on the kinesthetic sense, meaning that I don't have to look the cane into my hand while I'm moving, or it's designed to show you the trajectory in which the empty hand would be moving when you don't have the cane. That means that no, you don't have the right to go in there and start baton twirling a cane, because now you turn it into something else. If you don't respect these principles in your flow, and there are a bunch of other ones, everything from high and low, it's got its own language essentially, then it's no longer CaneFlow. And it does not matter. Coaches, certified coaches, do not have the right, even if you're just teaching movement based and it's not for the purpose of self-protection and we're brain training, they still, even though they don't mention the self-protection, they still cannot violate the principles. And if they get asked, coaches have to be able to say, yep, in the context of self-protection, that's called a leg pass, it's kept tight, and explain to them why you're doing what you're doing. Only a certified ACSD coach can share that with you and give you the details, because they got it directly from the source. And there's only one way you can learn that, and that is here. The home of CaneFlow is American Cane Self-Defense, which, by the way, is not a generic term. American Cane Self-Defense is the system that I put together 30 years ago, and we offer the training worldwide today. And to that end, again, canes are fun. You can't learn it I'm giving you the overview. I'm showing you potential, but there's a step-by-step. There's a beginning to this and how you get started. Go ahead and text the letter CCC to 305-745-7839. That's the number on the screen. And again, in less than 24 hours, we will be on a phone call with you, and we'll give you a blueprint, a guide that you can go ahead and answer all your questions. By the way, a fall cane immersion, which is September 24th through the 27th. Already, cane are starting to enroll. You can go ahead and just give us a call at the headquarters, 800-289-8188, to have a conversation about that, answer your questions, and see if that's something, coming down to Miami. It's considered the premier in-person cane training available today on the planet, basically, is what I say. All right, thank you so much for watching. Looking forward to your comments and your questions. Keep caning and stay safe.